Welcome to On Our Minds. I'm Dr. Brenda Wilson.
And Dr. Russ Witcher.
And we are two journalism professors here at Tennessee Tech. On this podcast, we sit down with other faculty and talk academics, personal interests, and teaching experiences. Well, on our minds today, we're talking with Eric Brown, Senior Lecturer in Tennessee Tech's Computer Science Department and Associate Director of the Cybersecurity Education Research and Outreach Center. Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. So we're talking a little bit today about the CROC Center, and cybersecurity seems to be on a lot of people's minds these days. How did you get involved with that field of study?
Field of study.
Yeah.
Absolutely dumbed into it. So when I originally went to school, I actually went to computer science here at Tech. So I finished my degree here. And when I left that degree, as you would have in that particular age, you thought you were leaving to be God's gift to software development, and that's all you were ever going to do. And after about 6 months or more of software development, I decided there had to be something better to do in my life, like, bagging groceries or something. And I ended up getting in information technology. And that was what we called it before it got the sexy name cybersecurity, because a lot of the things we do now were things you did if you were setting up a network or workstations or whatever else. So I kind of rolled into it. And then it kind of formalized when I left Tennessee Tech and ended up working for the Department of Education for a while. So when I hung out there, cyber was starting to kind of come into its own name, its own business, if you will. And, there was a lot of discussion, especially if you look at education environments. How are you protecting that pile and piles and piles of information that we keep up with on our kids that go through the education system? So kind of got into cyber that way. And then when the center started up, Dr. Siraj, Ambereen Siraj is the founding director, called me and said, you need to come back to Tech. And then that's when, I guess, as formal as it could be, that I got into cybersecurity.
Okay. You started with securing educational records and moved on from there. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And we did cyber, if you will, in the 80s and 90s. We just called it hardening the server. It wasn't as glamorous then as it is now, maybe.
Okay.
I know you're working on your dissertation, and I was looking at the title. One of the things from the title I was wondering about, instructor in the loop. What exactly is that?
So part of the research I'm working on right now, and I think I will successfully complete the degree about the time that I get to Social Security. They're going to put the degree and my Social Security check in the same envelope. It's going to be a wonderful day. So what I'm looking at in my research is how do we make use of large language models? I mean, we say AI, that's the marketing term now that is used for anything that looks a little bit innovative. They'll say, oh, this is AI, whether it is or isn't. But it's using large language models. So that's like Gemini, Claude, Chat GPT, things like that, generative AI, if you will. And trying to find better ways to map these volumes and volumes of educational frameworks that are being published right now, because everybody, depending on your area, there is a guiding organization that says this is how you should teach this topic. This is the things that people coming out of this program should know. And looking at that from the standpoint of how can a large language model improve it, make it a quicker process than the very manual processes it can take. Because I'm sure both of you have served on accrediting teams before, and they can be very arduous and very, very, very long. So how can you expedite that? But beyond understanding just mapping to a framework, how can I start using large language models to help guide development of the actual curriculum itself? It's not, everybody has this impression, well, I can go to chat and, say, write me a dissertation.
Yeah.
Click. It doesn't work that way.
Too bad.
Might be lovely if it did.
Yeah.
But how can we use that to help guide our thinking? So maybe like a one of the terms I've used is a collaborative research assistant. So I can argue with it like I would argue with a human being to improve ideas,
Okay.
to get maybe ideas that I would not have had otherwise. So basically, it's a virtual debate partner.
Oh,
And looking at
Wow.
ways that we can automate those efforts to improve our education outcomes.
right.
Mhm.
Write that better lab, write that better assignment, make sure that what I'm doing is actually aligning to some of these frameworks and that I'm actually hitting the mark.
Uh-huh.
So, kind of a collaborative reasoning assistant or research assistant, if you will.
Right.
Well, that's interesting. Talk a little bit about what Sea Rock Center does with that mobile STEM mobile type vehicle that you take out to the local community, and talk about cybersecurity in those locations.
Well, I guess to back up on that, so the mission for the center is in the name.
Mhm.
So that's where that very long name, which I think now we still have the record for having the longest name on campus, at least according to OCM. So it's cybersecurity education, research, and outreach. So everything we do, we evaluate it against the name. And does the activity that we're doing match one of the mission areas? So and I'll kind of work backwards on that, because what you're talking about is actually an intersection between education and outreach. The research part, we have faculty members that are affiliated with the center. They're working in a number of different areas, quantum networks, what we would call now cyber AI, which is the use of cybersecurity, or use of AI to improve cybersecurity. We have folks working in secure AI, which is using cybersecurity to make large language models safer. Because anything's got a database, I can hack it. So how do I protect it? And then smart manufacturing in a whole host of areas. The part you're talking about goes into where our education mission and our outreach mission somewhat intersect. One of the things we were tasked with very early on as a center, and we've always tried to describe the center because we don't look like any one thing to any one person. It just depends on what part of us they're looking at. So I've always described it as a workforce development center that happens to do a lot of research. On the workforce development side, very early on, we were charged with how are you going to improve by number and by quality the folks that are getting into this workforce pipeline. And the reality is, to answer that question, you've got to get into K-12. If you're not working in that space, you're not going to make an improvement on the other side, because there's only so much you can read, so many people you can retrain. There's only so many people that are going to look at cyber and say, I have spent 30 years of my life doing this. I'm going to quit all of it and go to cyber. That doesn't happen that way. But if we can get involved in K-12, we can do a couple of things. One, hopefully we can get at least a level of interest in cyber, meaning that they find their place in cyber, because cyber's in every place they're going to go. Not that, we're trying to indoctrinate everybody into computer science. That's not the way that works. I mean, hey, that would be a cool day, but, if they go healthcare, there's cyber. If they go into engineering, there's cyber. If they go into hairdressing, unfortunately, there is still cyber there, because you have a point of sale system that's keeping up with your clients and your financial transactions. But trying to help everybody kind of find cyber where they're at. If I can do that with K-12 students, I can do a couple of things. One, I may get somebody interested to study in that area for, if they're going into law enforcement, whatever else they're doing, get them interested. That improves on the other end, because maybe that interest will carry on. The other thing that is just a general improvement, it's a great way to gamify critical thinking. If I go look at a group of kids and I say, we're going to do a critical thinking exercise, they're going to glaze over and they're going to okay, go away, you gray-headed old fart, you smell. But if you make a game out of it,
Yeah.
you can teach.
Mm-hmm.
And critical thinking skills will translate into any area that you go into. So at the very least, we're doing exercises that help with critical thinking skills. At the ideal, we're helping them get into cyber some way in their space they're going to head to. So more to the point, after all that rambling, the thing you asked about was our work with Gen Cyber on Wheels.
Okay.
The Millard Oakley STEM Center has a semi-truck that I refer to as a STEM mobile. The way I compare it to at least one generation, because this fails generationally, if you ever saw the old Knight Rider series, the truck that the car drives up onto, okay, STEM mobile.
Yeah.
What we do is we actually borrow it. We trick it out with all of our stuff. So we'll bring in the Raspberry Pis, we'll bring in the signage, we'll bring in the extra whatever we're going to be messing with, Arduino boards, whatever else. And we create a mobile classroom. And then right now branded as Gen Cyber on Wheels because of a grant we had. It'll end up becoming C-Rock on Wheels after July when that grant runs out. The idea is we kind of show up like the P.T. Barnum Circus. They'll drop off the trailer at a location, a school somewhere on a Monday afternoon. We'll get it all set up. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we will get as many kids as we possibly can through that mobile classroom. Generally about 30-minute sessions, depending on the school. And we're going to get at least 20 or 25 instructional minutes with these kids doing a cyber activity of some sort. Again, getting them engaged in it. We've done a thing called Spy Hunter. We've done, I can't even remember. Anyway, the premise of the exercise was I got bored one day and I took a picture outside of Prescott Hall with my phone. We put the image up there. It was this, okay, where was this taken?
Find it, yeah.
Yeah, find this picture. And the tools to get the metadata off the photo, look up the coordinates, all that other stuff, but making them aware of how much data surrounds us every day. But we do that for 3 days straight. While we're there, we'll do teacher professional development. We'll talk to CTE directors. We've done parent meetings. So if the parent organization was meeting, we've done things for them. So like I said, it's like the circus comes to town. We hang out 3 days. On Thursday afternoon, we wrap up. They pick up the trailer on Friday, and then we go do it again somewhere else. But again, the idea that maybe we spark interest. One of the things that we're asking ourselves when we started doing that years ago is, how do we know we're doing anything? And the perfect case study that we had, this is ideal. We don't get this out of every kid. We had a kid that we encountered at Upperman High School. Wasn't really interested in cyber, wasn't really interested. He didn't know what he was interested in. Went through the thing we did. Came back and asked the principal to get one of us because he wanted to talk a little bit. So talked to the kid. Kid ends up going to one of our Gen Cyber summer camps. Went through it. Decided, hey, kind of like this stuff. I'll do the computer science thing. Ends up in computer science. Then, when in his junior year, applied for the Cyber Corps Scholarship for Service program and got it. And then finished out his master's degree and went into federal service doing cybersecurity for a federal agency. And that was a kid that was did not have cyber on the map at all, and is now a cyber defender at federal level.
That's a real impact.
That's a check mark. And even if we just get kids thinking about it when they go through the other programs, if they, law enforcement's a huge area now with digital forensics and things like that. And, of course, they sensationalize it on TV. Not everything looks like the TV show there, but there's a lot in law enforcement to look at. So it's an interesting way for us to do something that is not a classroom and Charlie Brown's teacher talking.
Yeah. I guess this is on a related note. What specifically is the Golden Eagle cyber certificate program?
So that was an education program we started up about 3 years ago now. Good grief, it has been 3 years ago.
Mhm.
The state was actually talking to Tennessee Tech and talking to the administration about, okay, you've got this C-Rock thing. Yeah, we've seen you do some stuff. What are you doing to help out with dual enrollment?
Mm-hmm.
And what are you doing to get cyber into dual enrollment opportunities?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, and then they call us in and said, okay, what are you doing? You know, you know how these questions roll down. Well, we ended up talking about, it's like, okay, let's try something. And we did. And, you know, it's like, how do you check the pasta? When it's done, you sling it against the wall, and if it sticks, the pasta's done.
Mm-hmm.
So we started out and we looked at courses that we already had and how could they be modified in some way to have a cyber component. So we ended up identifying 3 of those courses and made some tweaks. We got them, had to transform them from classroom to online asynchronous, which sounds like that should be incredibly easy.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much.
Mm.
There is a deliberateness in the process we've learned over the years. But anyway, so we got 3 of these classes to the point, okay, we can now deliver them online asynchronous. We don't have to worry about bell schedules. The kids can take it whenever they want.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start looking and said, well, we've said all along our target group is rural Tennessee. We want the kids that are not near metro, that has access to IT academies
Mm-hmm.
and all of this other money coming in. You know, we look at, you know, a kid out of Clay County, a kid out of Lawrenceburg, a kid out of Chester County, whatever. How do we get to those kids? It's like, well, all right, if we come up with this class and we ask them to buy a $200 textbook, I'm going to run away a kid
Mm-hmm.
that might have thought about doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, it's got to be open source.
Mm-hmm.
The kid cannot pay a dime. So, all right, we've got a structure now. TSAC has a dual enrollment grant that will pay for the fees. We can mandate open source on the course. That gets rid of the textbook. All right, we got financial barriers out of the way. So we tried it. And we started out with a couple of very, very dear districts to us that are friends of ours that were willing to pilot with us and let us learn with them learn the material, us learn how in the world to do it. And it's grown over time. We now have 5 courses in the portfolio, hoping to add 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'll
We
add
have
that 6th one.
Mm-hmm.
Spread over a lot of areas. It's not just computer science courses. There's intro programming. There's intro to cyber. We've got a sociology 1010 course. It would be a gen ed course anyway. It's got
Yeah.
a cyber
Yeah.
enhanced version. We've got an American government class that does policy. And we added AI.
Mm-hmm.
So data science and AI, that just this semester, it's the first time we've offered it. But it's an opportunity for the kids to take 3 of those courses before they graduate.
Mhm.
They end up with 9 credit hours. They'll transfer to any accredited school. And then ultimately, they get a certificate from us recognizing their achievement. We will present it at graduation or their award ceremony, however they do it in their particular district. But the idea is, okay, we've planted the seed. Let's see where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these kids are coming in computer science. Some of them are going the criminal justice route.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, I had one kid said, I've learned something from this. And I said, okay, what'd you learn? He said, I hate cyber. I'm never going to do it. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
data point.
Yes.
It's not you. That's fine.
Mhm.
That's a good data point. But we plan to seed for these kids to be able to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps the school districts because school districts are now, as part of their metrics to get funding, are getting measured on how many, what is the name? It's EPSO. I forgot what it is. It's some secondary, post-secondary opportunity. I
Uh-huh.
forgot what the acronym is right now. I'm losing it.
Uh,
But an EPSO is the
Mhm.
abbreviation, but they get credit for how many of those opportunities they provide students. So it's helping districts as well on that
Okay.
metric.
yeah.
But we've seen a lot of amazing things happen with kids come through that program. And,
Yeah.
you know, more interaction than you would think. You know, the struggle when you're asynchronous online, you don't get to see them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we get and part of the reason we think it's working, when we have our events like the spring showcase and things like that, we'll have kids come up and say, I'm in your class, and you're going, okay, hi. You know, you're grinning like, I can't look like an idiot.
So are you teaching some of those courses?
I do. I teach the Intro to Cyber class.
Okay.
And so, you know, they've watched videos of me for how long, and I get to meet them for the first time.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a great opportunity. The kids get a credential out of it. I mean, it's a local credential, but still, it's something they can put on their resume, and it helps them decide what do I want to do when I get into college, or wherever that college is, community college, 4-year program, TCAT, whatever they end up doing.
When you go out into the schools and the communities, how aware are people of the data that's available in their daily lives and like the security aspects of their daily lives?
If you want to traumatize a group of adults, now I'm not talking about the kids.
Yeah.
If you want to traumatize a group of parents, you have the little lecture about, you know, those free games you've got on your cell phone, and you know everybody's going to say, how many likes that Candy Crush thing? And of course, you're going to get somebody raise their hand. I said, I know they're great, and you know they're free. Oh, wait a minute. Let's talk about what free means. I'm either going to pay for that game with money, or I'm going to pay for that game with my information. I'm going to pay for that game regardless. And then when I say pay with information, you start seeing a group of adults go pale because they're like, oh, crap, wait a minute. You know, and the kids need to be made aware of it. But I honestly think our kids are a little more aware than the adult, you know, the parents
That's
are.
what I wondered, yeah.
So part of that is reaching out to both groups and just say, look, we are in a data-centric society. Data is the same as currency in our society now. There's nothing free on our phone, on our computer, or anything else. The discounts, you know, those great customer appreciation cards that we use, that's not for a discount. That's so that, you know, our favorite grocery store knows what time of the night we buy our toilet paper. We pay with our data, or we pay with our money. And it's not bad that we pay with information, but we need to be aware that we're paying with information.
Yeah. The younger ones may be more aware, but maybe not as concerned as
They're
the
not
older
as concerned.
folks, you know, who think about it a little more.
No, the parents know to be frightened by it. The kids don't know. You know, I was talking to a senior group one day, and they were talking about social media and things like that. And I said, there's a fundamental difference between the teenagers and that younger generation now and our generation. And it's not that we didn't do stupid stuff and the kids now are doing stupid stuff. We did stupid stuff too. The kids now are documenting it on Instagram and Facebook. We didn't document ours, so we we had no evidence. We could deny what we did.
That's right.
These kids are documenting it now, living their lives online. And, you know, part of what we have to talk to the kids about is not to teach them to be afraid of technology, but to be cautious, be aware, because many of them don't think about, oh, yeah, that was a really funny video when I did that very obscene thing on the thing. And it's now not so funny when I'm 10 years down the road and my employer found it when they did a social background search.
Yeah.
It's not funny anymore. And trying to make folks aware that you're building your online profile from the time that you're little. I know that doesn't sound right, you know, because they're kids, they shouldn't be held accountable. Well, I'm sorry. It's out there and it's recorded. And it's an impression. And trying to teach kids, you're building it now. Think about how you're presenting yourself. Is your online, and I'll ask kids when we do these things, is your online persona who you really are? Or are you presenting yourself to be something you're not? And maybe how you're presenting yourself online is not very flattering to the person that you actually are.
Yeah. I was looking at your CV, and I've noticed you've listed that
there's a lot of garbage in there.
Well, this one is it's you won the Wings Up Research Award. What was that for?
Oh, wow! I didn't even think I had that in there. So that was a recognition of research we've done. So if you have over, I believe it's $100,000 in awards
Okay.
in a given year of research awards,
Mm-hmm.
grants. You get a recognition. It's either 100 or 150,000.
Oh.
And so we have several of our workforce grants that we've been blessed to get. And
Mhm.
had a particularly good year that year.
Yeah, 2023.
We're submitting. Actually, I'm praying that it's being submitted right now. That will be, if every piece of it showed up, will be nearly $1 million.
Wow.
Oh, that'd be great.
You know, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
It comes in pieces.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was just recognition for some work we've done.
Great.
I've been PI on a few of them. I've been
Mhm.
co-PI on a bunch. It's just working in the community. We're all working on it. The whole C-Rock team's working on this stuff. It's just whoever submits the paperwork.
Okay.
Well,
I
that's
got credit
good.
that year.
Oh,
Great.
good, yeah. So, going back to our discussion about just online safety, is there what advice would you give people, just basic security measures we can take when using our smartphones and other devices?
Be aware.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally be aware of what you're installing. Some people have not had reason to have, I don't want to say fear, but a cautiousness about things that show up on their phone, because they'll say, well, you know, I live my life. I'm calm. I don't have anything to worry about. I don't have anything that the Russians or the Chinese won't. I haven't got to worry about it. But they'll get that text that's, oh, click this now. Your package is lost.
Yeah.
Click here
Yeah.
to resolve it. And there's all these messages we get, whether it be by text, phone,
Mhm.
email, where we need to be aware of our surroundings, if you will. And it's like, that's a sense of urgency. I didn't order anything. from
Right.
people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't,
Those red flags
you know,
to watch for.
why am I getting
Yeah.
this? And don't just click the link.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just click the link. So it's teaching people, don't click the link.
Yeah, the kind of trainings that we have to do here
Yeah,
as
exactly.
employees
Right.
to.
And it's
to be
just,
aware of the
it's
red
just
flags.
being aware.
Okay.
It's just being aware.
All right.
One of the things I like about your CV is you're as interesting off campus as you are on campus. And
Oh dear. That may not be a good thing.
I know your involvement in the Upperman High School Alumni Association is important to you. You know, when I was growing up, we did something probably that y'all don't like. We referred to it as Baxter High School, and it's never been Baxter High School. It's always been Upperman High School. And you've done some history on that topic. Tell us a little bit about Dr. Upperman.
Oh wow! I didn't think I'd get that shot.
shot.
Oh no! I can talk about that all day. The Upperman High School Baxter Seminary Alumni Association. So Baxter's got kind of a unique history in that regard. Baxter never really had a secondary school prior to Baxter Seminary, at least not one by the Board of Education.
Mhm.
It had a primary school. There was the Central High School in Cookeville. And the Methodist Church moved what part of their education mission, moved a school from another area. The school was having problems, so they moved it to Baxter in the very, very early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
The school was beginning to have problems there as well in Baxter. It was deeply in debt. And then they sent Dr. Upperman on his first mission. Once he had went through his training and everything, they basically sent him to go shut the school down because it was dying. It was deeply in debt. It was having trouble. And it's like, you need to go assess it, figure out how we're going to close this thing down. We've got to cut our losses. And so Dr. Upperman, who was from Pennsylvania area and had done all his training, went to school in New York at one point. Him and his wife came here, and he starts doing the evaluation. He starts looking at it, and then he went back to the group that sent him there to shut down the school and said, no, we're not shutting it down. I'm going to fix it. And it's like, but you were sent to, no, I'm going to fix it. And he became a defender for what was Baxter Seminary. and he led it up to 1959.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking in the 20s when
Yeah.
he arrives, and he took a little school that was broke, failing, had one building, had a little bitty potbelly stove.
Yeah.
Very stark existence for school, and turned it into an education facility that allowed students that were in the area, in that rural area, no money, and would bring them in and gave them as good of an education as you would have got at an Ivy League school.
Uh-huh.
People would send their kids there, ask them to be accepted. They may not have the money. They would send canned vegetables.
Yeah.
They would send fruit. They would send chickens. They would give a cow. And it was a full working farm. They were creating their own food. They had a dairy. It was the most amazing thing you had ever seen. That community took care of itself. And the people that went through Baxter Seminary talk still to this day of the education they got that they would probably never see again.
Yeah.
It had a nationally recognized debate team. It had a nationally recognized theater group. It was well known for its debate team. And Dr. Upperman had this amazing ability to go out on these fundraising tours. He had a little pamphlet in his hand that told about what the school was, and it's called the I Believe card. And then it talks about all that Upperman, all that Baxter Seminary did. And between Dr. Upperman, Ms. Upperman, who was kind of the arts person, and then Ms. Hill, who was kind of the dean of students, amazing things happened in that school. And it was a world-class education that clearly those students would have never received otherwise. And it was even an international school. There was a lot of Cuban students at that time. Again, different time, different place.
Yeah.
Not the Cuba we know now. Got a great education.
That's interesting.
So when it turned over, and it was recognized by the county as the high school for that area, even though it wasn't a county high school. In 1959, it was turned over. They basically sold to the county. And when they took over the school, they changed the name from Baxter Seminary to Upperman High School.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a very rich history, and I can talk for an
That's a great
hour
history.
just about that. But
Yeah.
it's part of the reason that I got to go to school, because I actually was a recipient of that scholarship.
Wow.
So that's part of the way I got to Tech, was the Alumni Association scholarship.
Great.
Yeah, well, we know you have other things to get to today, so we is there anything we haven't asked you that you would like to tell us
Oh,
about
we could talk all day
C-Rock?
long,
Maybe come back for another
I've
episode.
always told folks, never give a preacher a mic because he won't hush up.
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
Yeah.
C-Rock has been an amazing experience, and it's not been because of the genius of a faculty member or of a staff member. It's been because we surrounded ourselves with some incredible students that achieve things that I would have never imagined. And we live and die by our students, our SFS students, our CSA students, the Cyber Scholar Academy, and just the other students, our C-Rock student ambassador programs.
Yeah.
We have an amazing group of students that have been, every time we come up with a crazy scheme, we need to go to this place and do this. Well, how are we going to do it? I have no idea, but I'm sure you're going to tell me here in a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they just rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
So what we've been able to do as a center is because of the students that we've had. And, we've been blessed that we've had leadership and staff to understand give them the resources and get out of their way and let them lead.
Yeah, we hear so many negative stories about, cyber hacks and all that. It is encouraging to hear you're reaching out to the younger generation, and maybe we'll, turn things around and really shore up our devices and our attitude about technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. But no, it's been a great experience, and we're looking forward to this next turn of the dial. I mean, we're growing again. We've got some new initiatives coming out. We're trying to get an apprenticeship program off the ground, which will be a new step for us. Never done that before. So amazing things ahead.
All right.
Well, thanks for talking to
Yeah,
us.
thanks.
Thank
Soon to be
you. Thanks for
Dr.
having me.
Brown. Thanks for coming. The United States of America has some of the best institutions of higher education in the world. People come from countries all over the world to study here. We'd like to think the faculty are a big part of what makes our colleges and universities so attractive. Most academics spend their entire careers studying their chosen field and its many facets, while others may focus on one particular part of a topic and go in depth to learn all they can about the specifics. You may ask, why? Why would someone devote their life to studying a certain field? On this podcast, we're asking that too. We're also just having a good time getting to know the interesting people on campus we wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to chat with. We're talking with our colleagues about their chosen fields of study, how they got interested in the subject, and what they've discovered about it so far. We hope you find our discussions as interesting as we find our fellow academics. Some topics we discuss overlap the general education courses all students getting a college degree take, while other topics are in subjects students take in upper-level courses for their major. And some topics are even more specific than that. You may not study them unless you're getting an advanced degree. So listen closely. What we talk about may be on the quiz.